And you've been talking about the various people on your show, which I watch absolutely almost all the time.
We all know that the president watches a lot of television. You say that one host served as the de facto chief of staff.
Yeah, this is really disheartening, but there was a period of time where, at first jokingly, we would say that Fox late night host Lou Dobbs was the sort of shadow chief of staff of the Trump administration. Why did we say that? Because the president would call us and he would say, and pardon my language, he would say, why the hell didn't you watch Lou Dobbs last night? You need to listen to Lou. What Lou says is what I want to do. So if Lou Dobbs peddled a conspiracy theory on late night television or made an erroneous claim about what should be done either at the border or with some law enforcement operation, the president wanted us to be tuning in every night. My response to that was, I don't have any time to watch Lou Dobbs in the evening. You've got us running a 250,000 person department, and we're trying to play, we're trying to guard against some of the most severe threats to this country. We can't be watching Lou Dobbs and taking our orders from him, but this happened on a regular basis.
So that was Miles Taylor speaking with Anderson Cooper several nights ago. This morning on CNN's State of the Union with Jake Tapper, Jake Tapper asked the Department of Homeland Security's acting secretary, Chad Wolf, about these accusations, and this is how it went.
Miles Taylor also told CNN that the president instructed top officials at DHS to listen to Fox Business host Lou Dobbs' cable show every night, saying, quote, what Lou says is what I want to do, adding this is Miles Taylor saying, if Lou Dobbs peddled a conspiracy theory on late night television, the president wanted us to be tuning in. Is it true that President Trump tells folks to listen to Lou Dobbs every night, that that's how he wants to address safety and security at the border?
Absolutely not. And again, we can talk about Miles and all the accusations all day. I'm focused on what the department's doing. But no, I've never been told to watch Lou Dobbs or any other news show, even yours, to get what we want to do at the Department of Homeland Security. So again, I'm focused on looking forward, protecting the homeland, protecting our elections, and doing a number of things to continue to protect Americans and communities across this country.
Yeah, I get that. It's just that Miles Taylor was the chief of staff, a loyal Republican, longtime Republican. And it's not just him raising questions about the president's judgment and fitness for office. You've served under former secretaries of the Department of Homeland Security, John Kelly and Elaine Duke and Kirstjen Nielsen. All of them, according to sources, have since questioned President Trump's judgment. And I'm wondering what you make of that you have 3 top secretaries or acting secretaries, plus, of course, Miles Taylor, all of them casting aspersions on President Trump's ability to lead this nation in his judgment.
Well, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to try to get into each individual's head to try to understand what they're thinking. I know how I dealt with them when I was at the department. All of the individuals that you just discussed were strong proponents of what the department's doing and the president while in office. A number of them have left, some on their own, some not on their own. And what we see now before an election is just that. It's politics, particularly with Miles. 14 months ago, he left the department. Hasn't said anything until about 5 days ago. So again, I think people understand what this is about. This is about politics, first and foremost, and it's unfortunate. But we'll continue to push forward on protecting the homeland and doing a number of initiatives at the department.
I think he would say it's not politics, that he thinks President Trump is unfit to lead the country. I mean, that's what he's saying. Even though he's a longtime Republican, he endorsed Joe Biden.
Then I would have said, where is that criticism, or where are those comments 14 months ago?
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. I don't think it should come as a surprise to anyone that Fox News is running our country with Donald Trump in the White House. He's almost like the Manchurian president who's being controlled completely by the bigotry that he gets directly. I mean, obviously the bigotry is born inside of him naturally, and I think the relationship with Fox News is really just symbiotic. They're feeding each other the hatred and the bigotry. So it's really not a surprise, but it should just be shocking. It should still move us into a serious level of concern that the United States is currently being run by a far right-wing propaganda outlet that has built its entire brand on the grievance of white conservatives and their bigotry towards anyone who is not a white conservative. I think there is a really there's a very strong case that can be made about Fox News's bigotry. I don't think we have to establish that here. You can just find any number of clips that shows us exactly how deep the hatred and the bigotry is inside of the actual brand of Fox News. That's one thing. But the absurdity that our nation is being run by the furthest right-wing extremist media organization on the face of the planet is concerning, because the president of the United States is enacting policies from the hate-filled echo chamber that is Fox News. So we have two things that we should be concerned about. The absurdity that the president of the United States, in one report, they said that he picked up the phone and called Lou Dobbs to include him in on an economic advisory council meeting. Right. So the absurdity of that the president of the United States has access to the brightest minds on the face of the planet, not just in this country, but on the face of the planet. And who does he call? Lou Dobbs of Fox News. So it's the absurdity of it, but the policies that come out of it are deeply steeped in the bigotry and the hatred and the xenophobia and the racism of Fox News. So it's a twofold problem. There's another side to this problem that I think that we really have to explore a little bit, and that's the fact that it's a cyclical kind of feedback loop that I think we should be concerned about as we lead up to the election. And this is what I mean. Last week we reported and discussed the clip of Sean Hannity, of President Trump on Sean Hannity. Let's play that real quick so I can bring you up to speed. It's the clip where the president is outlining his plans to ensure that there are sheriff's officers, that there are people on the ground, attorneys, essentially to intimidate voters. Listen in.
My question to you then is, are you going to have poll watchers? Are you going to have an ability to monitor to avoid fraud and cross-check whether or not these are registered voters, whether or not there's been identification to know that it's a real vote from a real American?
We're going to have everything. We're going to have sheriffs, and we're going to have law enforcement, and we're going to have, hopefully, U.S. attorneys, and we're going to have everybody and attorney generals. But it's very hard. I mean, you have some of these states sending them out.
Now, truthfully, the president of the United States does not have the legal power to do this. He does not have the authority to order sheriff's officers to polling locations. Or anyone of anything of that nature, right? Never mind the illegality of voter intimidation. We discussed that already, but he doesn't have the authority to do so. But watch how this works. The president of the United States goes on Fox News and he makes that plan clear. Who watches Fox News in addition to the president of the United States? Everyone who wants to hear directly from the president of the United States, including sheriffs who are part of sheriffs associations around the country that overwhelmingly support Donald Trump. And so while the president of the United States does not have the authority to order sheriff's officers directly to go to polling locations, the sheriff's officers can get the orders indirectly through Fox News and carry it out based on their own authority. And so it's the same exact result. Never mind the fact that the president can't compel local sheriff's officers and county sheriff's officers to do anything when you have ideological actors like sheriff's officers. You already saw in the New York NYPD union, police union, they endorsed the president of the United States. You have to take into mind that policing agencies across this country are not apolitical. They are very political. They are hyper political, and they overwhelmingly are conservative and support the president of the United States, which is something that you have to keep in mind anytime you talk about policing agencies. And so for them to get, it's nothing for them to get the desire of Donald Trump from Fox News. Every police sheriff across this country heard his orders through Fox News, and so they can act on it on their own, either directly by compelling their sheriff's officers to show up to the polls, or indirectly by suggesting that these guys on their time off show up at the polls like they have done in the past. And so this should be another level of concern. So it's not so much that it's just the relationship between Fox News and the White House. It's the relationship between the White House, Fox News, and people on the ground. This subculture, this Trump subculture of people who are ready and willing to act on anything Donald Trump says. This should concern everyone, because we're going to see individuals act out on their own individually, or with their organization. If they are part of the sheriff's department, they're going to act collectively. If they're part of some type of a fringe group like the Proud Boys or QAnon, those people are going to show up. And the reason they're going to show up is because they believe and they heard directly from the president of the United States that this is what he wants done. So Fox News is not only feeding stuff to Donald Trump is feeding stuff to Fox News, and Fox News is feeding it down to the masses that are in the Trump subculture. So there's a very significant problem that's going on in this country, and we have to vote it out. We have to vote it out. Like, we got to try. I know people say you can't vote fascism out, but hell, if we don't give it a try. We absolutely have to do what we have to do to get Donald Trump out of office, because of the policies that he's implementing are based on Fox News and their right-wing bigoted propaganda machine, which is based on the rabid subculture that is the aggrieved white conservative, bigoted, racist conservative in this country. We can't just sit around and play with it. We absolutely have to act and make sure that this subculture remains a subculture and is removed out of power. It cannot be allowed to remain in power because of how detrimental it is to everyone who is not an aggrieved white conservative.